Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Monday's message. This is psychic medium Josh Simons coming to everyone who's watching this with a little bit of a journey that has happened to me over the past week. I have a lot of wonderful, wonderful people in my life, and I see those people suffer sometimes with the things that happen to them. And that's very tough, especially when it's people that we care for, or generally people that we don't care for. A compassionate human being doesn't want to see anybody, human, or otherwise, suffer needlessly, right? I want to talk about a really profound experience that I had this week with a bee. A bee, not a human, a bee. I have a lot of profound experiences with humans and spirits, but this week really, really drove home something that I've been learning, right? And on this path of mine, I'm constantly learning, trying to understand, trying to gain knowledge and wisdom to better help people. Over the course of the past 6 months of 2020, I had found that I had been having a lot of fear reactions, right? And in the New Age world and in the spiritual world, we often hear of the idea of shadow work. And shadow work talks about dealing with our shadows, dealing with the inner darkness, right? That is a result of trauma and abuse and pain and turmoil. And sitting with that shadow and trying to acknowledge it and work through it. And I didn't even realize last year I was kind of doing shadow work because there was a couple months there where it was really tough for me. So a lot of folks know that I'm a gay man, and I don't wear that as a badge of honor in any way. Yet being in this world, from 3 years old on, knowing that I was gay, knowing that I couldn't share that with folks, that instilled in me a lot of fear, right? Fear of not being accepted, fear of being rejected, which is kind of the same thing, right? Fear of being ostracized, found out, abused, hurt, right? All of those things. We all have fear reaction in our worlds, right? Whether we're gay or not. We all are afraid of things, and that fear reaction is something that will often cause us to react in certain ways, right? Well, last year, I worked with my spirits, and I said, listen, I know that I have these hang-ups, and I want to get past them, right? I want to work through them. I want to be a better, more actualized, more self-realized human being. That's what I want. I want to be good at what I do here, or better at what I do here. And I want to not live in pain or suffering, right? So spirits, please lead me to where I need to be to work through those processes. And then things got really tough for me. Things did get really tough for me. I remember walking through the woods last November, and it was specifically November, and it was really warm out. It was a really unusually warm day. And I was walking through the woods, and I just sat down on a log and started to cry, and everything hit me that, from the age of 3 on, a lot of my reactions, a lot of the way that I had been carrying myself through this world were based out of fear, right? And that makes sense, right? That happens to a lot of us, gay or straight, like I said. The wisdom that I've discovered over the past year or so is that oftentimes when we're suffering, it's our spirits doing it to us. And I know that doesn't make sense off the bat, right? It doesn't make sense off the bat. But sometimes the only way we become stronger is by going through the fire, right? That we can't just, and they can't just wave a magic wand, that sometimes there are things inside of us that we have to deal with and look at and work through, right? That will create a better person, right? A stronger person. And even if it's not an internal process, let's say it's an external thing, our spirits all the time will put us through negative experiences to maneuver us and move us to a better place. I'll give you an example. I believe it was Groundhog Day. It was a February 2nd of 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017. Isaac, my husband, was driving, and roads were clear. It was in the middle of winter. Roads were clear, and he's just going down the road, and all of a sudden, he skidded, hit a snowbank, and totally flipped his car. Like, flipped it, and it went up over the snowbank. He flipped it, and it landed on its bottom. Airbags go off. Car was totaled. He was fine. Nothing was wrong with him. And that experience there shifted both he and I into a place where we needed to be. That was a little bit of a maneuvering, right? And that car accident led to subsequent happenings for us where how we were led to this. We were led to this. In retrospect and through an experience that I had, I found out that whole mystery of why that happened, that was spirit caused. Spirit caused. Because that was like a tumbler or a domino, right? That one thing fell, and then after that fell, those other things would fall. I have a friend who's really, really devoted to working through her trauma, her pain, her stuff, and she's in the spiritual stuff. And she recently had said, like, I'm doing the work, I'm making offerings, I'm giving thanks, I'm doing the work at my altar, I'm doing all the stuff that I should be. Why am I suffering? Why is this stuff not leaving me? And this goes to this experience that I had with the bee, right? So in my space here, I have 2 windows, and there's no second floor. It's just like a little pitched black roof, tar shingles, tar paper shingles, or what have you. And it gets really hot in here. So I have 2 windows that I open. And these windows, one of them has a screen, one of them doesn't. So in flies a bee. And this just happened to me the other day. And I was in here and I'm like watching this bee hit itself against the window over and over and over. And it wants to get out, right? It wants to move. It wants to go to a different place. And it's so focused on that. And me, being me, I don't want to see the bee suffer. So I take a little cup and a sheet of paper and get the bee off the window and let it go. And as I'm holding this cup outside of the window, trying to get the bee to come out of it, it was slow, it was lethargic, and I'm like, I know I didn't hurt it. I was very gentle with it. And then, I'm shaking it so it could fly and what have you. It made me realize that what I was to that bee was what my spirits are to me. So this bee focused on its own life, focused on its own mission to get out, right? Do its thing. Didn't really know I was there. Maybe sensed me a little bit, didn't know I was there. And then just as I scooped that bee up, and it was traumatic, that scooping process was traumatic, just as I did that, so haven't my spirits done that to me. Because, and a lot of us, most of us, right? Because we'll be so focused on this thing, we'll be beating our head against the figurative window, trying to move or get away or do the things that we want to do. And then our spirits will swoop right in, pick us up, and plop us where we need to be. That process can be instant, like a car accident. That process can be extended, like a few-month process, trying to work through insecurities and pain and heartache and trauma and all of those things. I invite you to look over your life, right? And look at the time, the negative things that would have happened to you. And then see how those negative things that would have happened to you can correlate to positive changes in your life. I have a really wise friend that I was just talking to her about this, right? Because she's struggling as well. And I was like, listen, this is like the bee thing to me, right? I'm not upset at our spirits because our spirits know that sometimes we have to go through pain to become a better person or to get to a place where we need to be. It's just the part of the process of evolution, personal evolution, if you will. And she described it as like a kiln, right? A kiln, like, you take this thing and you fire it, right? And you make it stronger and harder, right? That firing and that heating process could be painful, right? But we become stronger on the other side of it. This is really important to me because right now in this modern world of New Ageism, if you will, spirituality, There's a lot of people that are like, oh, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. I don't really buy that. I think a lot of things, if not most things, happen for a reason. But when you say everything happens for a reason, right? Or let me put it this way. Everything does happen for a reason, because cause and effect, right? Like snow happens because it's precipitating and it's cold, right? So snow does happen for a reason. But when people say everything happens for a reason, behind that is like, everything is being dictated or controlled for a reason. You cannot tell me that the parents who lose their 3-year-old child to leukemia, that there was a reason behind that. That experience wasn't dictated by helpful or loving spirits at all, right? Perhaps it was dictated by a free radical or a toxin that caused that leukemia in that child, right? But you can't tell me that there are spirits out there intentionally causing pain and heartache like that. Not our greater loving spirits anyways. Those painful things though, those painful things and the traumatic things, some of those things, not all of them, because sometimes bad things happen just because bad things happen, but sometimes the trauma and the pain and the hurt and the those types of experiences can lead us to grow. So there's a reason behind that, but it's a reason that we don't rightly see because we're in the middle of the pain. Because logically speaking, it's like, why would the spirits that love and care for me put me through the ringer? Because if they loved and cared for me, wouldn't they just do everything for me? No. This is like parents who love and care for their children, but they're not going to do everything for their children, because that's not how you develop character. That's not how you become a stronger individual, right? So think of that. Think of those types of experiences that you would have had in the past, and how those experiences, as negative as they were when they were happening, led you to a positive outcome or a positive future or a positive, better version of yourself. And if you can make that correlation, you should thank your spirits, right? Because for as much pain and turmoil and shadow work that I was going through last year, and to whatever degree continue to go through, right? As much as that was harsh and not pleasant, what's far less pleasant is staying in that place of stagnation or unhealthy mechanisms, right? So careful if you ask your spirits for healing, because they will provide it, but that healing is not always pleasant, right? To be healed is pleasant, but sometimes the healing isn't. Think of this. Sometimes bad things happen to us not because we're being punished, but because we're being pushed. And then be grateful for that. I am. Right? What I want to do is pull a rune now with that. That's a wonderful little message that I was given and had an experience with a bee, and I'm supposed to share that with folks here. I want to pull a rune just to kind of talk about energies of this week, energies that we should look out over. My bag of runes right here. I want to pull a rune, hoping to lend anybody who's watching the wisdom that they need. All right. All right, though. So it looks like the letter R. Yes, it looks like the letter R. And this is really interesting because I want to show you the tarot card that corresponds to that rune, because there's a lot of similarities in the Rado rune as there is in a tarot card. So Rado talks about the chariot movement, the blessed journey, right? That there are spirits around us pulling us on a blessed journey, supporting us and holding us on a blessed journey. This is very much like the chariot card, and if you've seen my messages, it feels like the chariot card always comes up too. So Rado, to me, right, the relationship that I have developed with this idea of rhythm and chariot wheels and, that sort of thing, revolutions, what have you. This is very much like this. And if we look at this card, we see these spirits, again, they don't have reins. There's trust, right? Between the person in the chariot and the spirits that are co-creating the life with us. Sometimes these spirits are going to bring us down a bumpy road. And that bumpy road gets us to greener pastures, if you will. So just remember that. And as painful as your negative experiences are, know that oftentimes when you're going through them, it's to move you to a place of peace. That's what we all deserve. So there's my Monday message. I hope it sits with you well, and I hope it helps you make sense of a lot of the things in your life where, okay, I wasn't being punished, I was being pushed, right? And in that way, say thank you to your ancestors and your helping spirits, because they have your best interests in mind. So thank you for this. Take care of yourselves out there. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week.